Yeah. So basically, how is this immigration crackdown likely to impact immigrants already who are living in the UK?
Mhm. First and the most difficult thing for immigrants who are already in the UK is the uncertainty. Because when you come to
Correct.
the UK on an
Yeah.
immigration route, you know what you're doing. You're going on
Yeah.
a skilled worker visa, for example.
Mm,
You know
mm,
that you're
mm.
going to be on that route for 5 years, and then you can
Yeah.
get indefinite leave. Once you get indefinite leave, you will be able to apply for nationality after 1 year. And that
Correct.
means that in 6 years' time, if you do everything right, you could become a British national following the legal processes that are in place.
Mm,
Now, what this government is now doing with this white paper, they have
mm.
sent out these shock waves amongst people. So
Yes.
instead of people thinking, oh, yeah, okay, I've got a clear plan. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going, when I'm going to
Mm,
get my
mm,
indefinite leave. Suddenly, people are panicking about, oh,
mm,
what are they
mm.
changing? Where is this
Yeah.
going to go? So is it going to apply to me as well? Is it going to apply when they make the law about nationality? So when will I
Correct.
get that? So that's the kind of impact it's having immediately.
Got it. And have you seen any surge in terms of inquiries, in terms of your social media
Massively,
comments?
massively. We've had a massive increase because we are very active, as you know, on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do questions on TikTok and YouTube, as well as on other platforms on a daily basis. So what we are looking at is those direct messages that we receive. So everybody is writing in and asking whether these rules affect them. And that's the one
Getting
thing
it.
that the government has not clarified, because what they've
Mm,
done in the white paper is they've thrown all these grenades, and
mm.
nobody knows when the grenades are going to go off. So you can see them all lying around everywhere, and people have
Correct.
no idea when anything
Mm,
is going to go off because they don't know.
mm,
So
mm, mm.
the way the white paper has been published, the way it's been worded, what it says is that your 5 years could turn to 10 years for indefinitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Your salary could go up that you're supposed to be taking, or your sponsor is supposed to be paying. Your English language requirements might go up. Your
Correct.
extensions might become difficult. So
Mm.
might, and that is what the question marks have done to people, that they have
Yes.
lost their certainty and they've lost their kind of peace, so to
Yes.
say. So where they knew that they were going and working on a particular path, now it's all up in the air and you just don't know where it's going to go.
Correct. 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 You're right. Because I have seen same thing among the diaspora community because I have been talking through so many people, families who have already stayed in this country for nearly 4 years
Yep, yep,
and
yep.
they were about to file their ILR request in upcoming months and
Hmm.
now they are worried. One of the parents raised a concern that his daughter is 14 years old and she moved here later on, not exact at the time of he and her wife moved here, his
Hmm.
wife moved here. And if 10 years rules applies to them, then she will become 18 years old in this time. Then what will happen to her?
Well, let me tell you one thing. There
Yeah.
are immigration rules in place, and then there is case law, and then there are those principles of legal principles which are in place, which will not be taken away. Okay.
Mm.
And when I say they will not be taken away, I'm obviously talking common sense. And I'm
Yeah.
obviously talking about, the rules of good conscience and the rules of
Mm.
natural justice. And
Yeah.
that if you can see that somebody is on a path, you can't take them away. Basically,
Mm.
it's, in legal terms, we call it a stopple.
Yeah.
The idea basically is you can't put a ladder and ask
Mm.
somebody, please come, here's a
Mm.
ladder. This is where you want to climb, climb. And when they start climbing, you pull the ladder away.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
legal principle. You cannot do that. It's called estoppel. So what we always say is that when you have made a promise under a rule,
Mm.
that rule should be taken all the way through. Now, if
Mm.
the government says we are going to make changes retrospectively, they will need to
Mm.
have an act of parliament to do that. Number one, of course, if the parliament says from here onwards, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is going to be called night time, and from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. is going to be called daytime. If Parliament says that, principally, we need to follow that because that is the will of the Parliament. That is how the
Yeah.
UK law is. So, if the Parliament makes a law which is retrospective in nature, then that will
Mm.
affect people that are in the country now. But I don't
Mm.
expect that to happen because
Yeah.
when something like that has been tried in the past, it's been struck down
Mm.
by the courts.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
still believe that the UK judiciary is powerful enough and strong enough, and they have a backbone and a spine that they would
mm,
stand up to, this right wing kind of Farage kind of
correct. Yep.
mentality that's coming our way, and which is forcing the government to do the things that it is doing. Otherwise,
Mm,
these are not the kind of things that you would expect immigration rules to bring in, where suddenly you're saying from 5 years, you're moving to 10 years for your.
mm,
Why would a professional come to the UK, spend 10
exactly.
years of their life, and
Mm,
then settle here? Why? If they can
yeah.
spend 5 years, and this is a kind of a structure all around the world, wherever you see the main countries in the world, they would say
Mm,
4, 5, 6 years is the time for settlement, and that is a
correct.
reasonable time to do, and that is why
Mm,
UK has always had that. But of
mm,
course, the government right now is suggesting that it should be moved to 10 years. Likewise,
mm,
when you look at the family structures. When somebody,
yes.
the British national, is getting married to an Indian national, for example, and wants
Mm,
to bring her over, and that Indian national has to pass an English test, and then they need to meet a certain threshold. Now, that threshold, the financial threshold, used to be 18,600 till last year. Then the government
mm,
last year changed it to £29,000, and now
yeah.
this government is saying that it may even go higher.
Yeah.
So even at £29,000, if you look at that, not many people earn £29,000 and be
Correct.
able to meet all their requirements. So why does it have to be when you're bringing in a spouse, which is something quite strange when people look at it and think about
Mm,
it, that you're talking about a spouse. You're not talking about loading up with immigrants. You're talking about
yeah.
a spouse, your wife or your husband. That is your right. And if you take the
Correct.
right away, then what is the purpose of the law left? So it's quite
That's
sad
true.
what's happening right now.
Yeah. Have you seen any common misconceptions or points of confusion after this particular
Yep,
changes?
yep, quite a few. The first one, of course, is those skilled workers who are in the country already. They are
Mm,
talking about, oh, my 5 years is now going to be changed to 10 years. Is that
mm,
true? So I say no. Then there
mm,
is the other concept of people saying, well, I understand that now I will not be able to meet the financial requirements because they are going to go up. Again, that is not true, because if you're on a skilled worker route, or if you're
mm,
on a spouse visa as the wife or a husband of a British national or a person settled in the UK, then the rules that applied to you at the time when you made the application should still continue. Unless, like I
correct.
said, there is only one exception, that is if the parliament calls night day.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. If the parliament says we are going to apply these rules retrospectively, then this will apply. Otherwise, it will not apply. So, otherwise, what we expect is that there is a white paper right now. That white paper
Mm,
is a consultation. Now, the
yeah.
consultation has been opened. The questions have been asked. And MAC, the Migration Advisory Committee, is going to be getting back with their recommendations on what should be happening. Now, if they
Mm,
come back and say that these white paper recommendations should be implemented now, then
mm,
it will go into Parliament for a debate. Then the
mm,
Parliament will have a debate. All the members of Parliament will agree or disagree on things, and the government will bring in a
yeah.
bill, and the rules will be implemented. Once they are implemented, that's when they become law. So
Correct.
people applying from that date onwards will be
Mm,
affected by those rules, not those who are already in the country. Another common misconception that people have is that, oh, I arrived in the UK, let's say 2 years ago, and now
mm,
they change the nationality laws. Will those changes apply to me as well? Because I've already been in the country when the changes come in. That's not
mm,
how it works. The way it
mm,
works, the law under which your current immigration status is going, that is the current law. So if
correct.
somebody is on a skilled worker route right now, has spent 2 years already, when they complete their 5 years, they will be able to get their indefinite leave. Once they
Mm,
get indefinite leave, by that time, if the new law has been brought in where it says earned citizenship, for example,
mm,
that you now have to wait 10 years to get your citizenship, then that law will apply to them.
yeah.
Okay? Because they
Mm,
never applied for the nationality before. It was only the skilled
correct.
visa that they were under.
Mm,
So that's
mm,
another misconception that people have, that if I'm already in the country, then this does not apply to me.
getting it. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I want to take one question from here that students, like we have handsome amount of immigrant students here.
Yes.
And now if they are already on a student visa, they might finish their uh, studies in upcoming months, and if they get sponsorship job in 1 year or so, how it will apply to them?
Same thing. Whenever they get their sponsorship, whenever they apply for that visa, what are the rules in place at that time?
Correct.
If the new rules have come in by that time, when they make
Yeah.
the application, then the new rules will apply, no matter how long they've been in the country already. But it's all
Correct.
about when you're making that application, when your CAS letter has been issued. The CAS is the certificate of acceptance of studies for students. And if you're going
Yes.
for a skilled worker visa, then you're talking about the certificate of sponsorship. That is the cost,
Correct.
COS. So these are the timing of those sponsorship letters will dictate which laws apply to you.
Getting it. Yes.
Okay.
Uh, what will happen to care workers? Because they have said that they are going to stop this category, visa category,
Well, what they've
uh,
said is they are not going to let new care workers come into the country.
coming in.
Because,
Yes.
Path, what you need to understand, what's happened here is the care sector has seen a huge increase in
Yeah.
fraudulent applications. So, what was happening, or what was meant to be happening, was that
Mm,
the industry needed a lot of people.
yeah.
The people were not available because the UK or the local indigenous people were not getting into the care industry themselves, and they were not training for it. So people had to be brought in from overseas. So what's
Mm,
happened is that thousands and thousands of people have been brought in. Well, thousands, I don't know how many thousands there are. I don't have the numbers, but I would imagine that thousands of people have come in. And those will be either from African countries, or they'll be from India, from Pakistan. A lot of people have come in as carers into the UK. Now, the idea was that they come in, they are then allocated their spaces in care agencies, and they go and work with where the
correct.
shortage is. Unfortunately, what's happened is a lot of agents got involved, and they looked
Mm,
at this as a money making opportunity. So,
mm,
what they started doing was they would create jobs which were not genuine, or they would create employers which were not genuine, get the
mm,
sponsorship licenses. Once they had got them, apply for their jobs, get the applications approved, and people who were in India, for example, somebody who has never worked as a carer and
mm.
suddenly is being offered the job as a carer would jump at the idea that, yes, I would love to go to the UK. I'd love to
Yes.
go and start earning a good
Mm,
living, and then I could get my citizenship and I could get my indefinite leave and whatever happens when you come to the UK. So that idea brought people over. Once they came
mm,
here, they found out that the job was not there, and they are sitting there worried what's going to happen. And a lot of cases, and I've heard a lot of clients say this, that the agents would then say, you pay us money so
mm,
that we can give the employer money to so that they can pay taxes for you. So there is
mm.
no job. And these people
Exactly.
are now being blackmailed because they've paid a lot of money to come here, thinking that
Mm,
they're paying for a service and they'll be getting a job, and then they'll be able to get a wage and a status, immigration status with that. But what actually happens is they've paid all that money, which is now gone, come to the UK and find out either you pay us money so that we can pay your taxes, or pay us a
yeah.
commission every month as well, so that
Mm,
you can keep your legal status alive. Otherwise, your money is gone, your legal status is gone. So,
correct.
if these people go, then they start working overtime. Then they start
Correct.
working in the evenings for some other people because they don't have a day job. So, they are
Yeah.
on paper, they look like they are carers, but they're actually working as drivers or deliveries, or
Yeah.
whatever else that they can do part time to make some money so that they can keep paying those agents, hoping that they will start getting those care jobs. And when they don't get those care jobs, that
Mm,
job kind of lasts for 6 months to a year, and then the employer simply decides to terminate their contract. The person is left with nothing. They've spent their
mm,
money, they've sold everything in India, spent their money to get their visa, come here, never got the job, paid their taxes, or
correct.
the employer, so to say, for 6 months to a year, and then the employer fires them anyway, and they're left with nothing. And then
Mm,
they're running around everywhere until another agent picks them up, demands a lot of money, and then the whole cycle continues. So
yes.
the way to handle it is not to make rules so tough that genuine candidates cannot come here. The
Mm,
way to handle it is to open your eyes and look at the abuse and understand how it is being done, so you stop it. And that is the biggest problem. The problem is not the immigrants or the agents. The problem
Hmm.
is the home office staff, the home office mentality, and the home office structure, where
Hmm.
they do not care. I mean, I go to courts all the time. I've been going to
Hmm.
courts for 20 years. I go to courts. I mean, let me give you another example.
Yeah.
Last week, three court hearings got adjourned.
Hmm.
Why? Because they didn't have judges.
Oh.
Why didn't they have judges? Now, these courtrooms that I go to, or these buildings that I go to, for example, Taylor House or York House in London, or there is the Birmingham Priory Courts, where they've got at least 15, 20, 25 courtrooms. I remember those used to be full because there were
Hmm.
so many matters going on. Now you go there, three or four courtrooms are actually working. The rest of the entire building, with the security staff, with all the other stuff, they're all standing at attention. For
Hmm.
what? If there are three or four courtrooms working. And even those three or four courtrooms, sometimes if one judge is taken ill or cannot be there, there is nobody else there.
Yeah.
That is where the resources get wasted. If the
Hmm.
Home Office started making proper decisions rather than
Yes.
simply doing idiotic decisions which do not make sense, which do not take into account anything, which do not use a brain activity, rather just follow a checklist, if the Home Office started doing better decisions, all of this would improve, because then you would go beyond checklists and beyond
Hmm.
instructions and actually use your brain and say,
Hmm.
"Oh, this looks dodgy or this looks wrong. Let me find out about it. Let
Hmm.
me get into this and let me find out more." And then the caseworker would be able to see, oh, this is not a genuine employment, or this is not
Hmm.
a genuine employer, or they don't have a record, or look at their employees, they're not actually working there. And
Yeah.
that would improve the system, not cracking down on people who are already suffering under the burden of the fees. Look at the
Correct.
fees that are being charged right now.
Yes.
Let me just mention something else here. When the immigration health surcharge was brought in,
Hmm.
immigration health surcharge is what every immigrant has to pay when they apply for a visa to the UK, apart from visitors. So anything over 6 months, you have to pay an immigration health surcharge.
Yeah.
That immigration health surcharge for 2.5 years, if you're applying for an extension, for example, for a single person, an adult, right now is £3,835. That includes the home office fee plus the immigration health surcharge only for 30 months, 2.5 years.
Hmm.
Imagine this one man is not by himself. Imagine this one man has two children and a wife as well. That's
Yeah.
four people. If you roughly calculate it at about £4,000 a person, four people, £4,000 each for an extension application, the family for 2.5 years is paying 16,000 or close to £16,000. Let's say
Hmm.
50,000.
Yeah.
What I see, these people will go get a loan, will pay
Hmm.
off that loan in the next 2.5, 3 years, and
Yeah.
it will be time for another extension.
Correct.
How are they
Yeah.
living? They're not living amazing lives. They are just
No.
living literally on a day to day basis just to make sure that they do not fall behind on anything. Why? Because they want to respect the law, they want to make the right payments at the right times. But when you look at what the Home Office does, the slightest error somewhere, they'll refuse the application. They'll put deception on you. They'll put all sorts of more difficult things. Right now, this white paper is talking about putting more surcharge and a tuition surcharge on international students. Are
Yes.
you not getting enough money from international students? Not only are the international students coming here and paying a lot of money, they are
Yeah.
constantly being abused. They are constantly being looked at as immigrants who are coming and becoming a burden on the state. They are not
Correct.
becoming a burden on the state.
Yeah.
They are well to do people from overseas who spend a lot of money that the local people here would not even imagine spending on anything.
Correct.
And those people that come here are
Hmm.
actually at the receiving end because they are
Hmm.
constantly treated as immigrants who are becoming a burden on the state.
Let's flip the side because you have mentioned this. What were the reasons why government came up with the white paper?
Because
What is this net
there are a
migration
number
thing?
of things. One thing is that they understand what the pressure from reform is. Reform
Hmm.
right now has come in on one single agenda, and that
Hmm.
agenda is to get the views of the people on their side by
Yeah.
going on to the one nerve that hits
Mm,
everything. You
mm,
walk around in London, you see multicultural society. You
yeah.
walk around in some of the cities and you see only brown people, right? And
Mm,
that's
mm,
not because they have taken over those cities or anything, but
mm, mm.
because over the years that is how integration has taken place.
Correct.
Okay, there is nothing wrong with that. So what the reform kind of agenda is that everybody should integrate. What does
Mm,
integration mean? Birds of a feather flock together. Is there no sense in that? The
mm,
reason for that is that you're not going to have all kind of rainbows going all over the place, everybody mixing around with everybody. People
mm,
feel comfortable with their culture. People feel comfortable with the language. People feel
mm.
comfortable with the cuisine, with a kind of a dress sense. Why do Africans dress like they do and Indians dress like they do and
Yeah.
Europeans dress like they do? There are different ways of expressing your culture, different ways of doing what you do. So
Mm,
that concept has been completely abused by this right wing kind of thing, this
yeah.
reform kind of mentality. And what they're saying is they show the British people that look,
Mm,
these people have come over and taken over your schools and your NHS and your
mm,
supermarkets and everything. And that's why you can't find jobs and you can't find school spaces. And that's why the NHS waiting times are longer, all of that. That is a minute percentage of people who take
mm.
advantage,
Yes.
who knowingly come in and try to defraud. That's a
Mm,
minute scale. When you look at
mm,
NHS, for example, go to
mm.
a hospital. Who do you see? You see Indians, you see Africans, you see
Yeah.
Pakistanis. Those are the doctors and nurses running the show,
Mm,
not the white British indigenous people. Yes, they are, of course, there, and thank God that they are there because they
mm.
have to be there. You can't just keep
Yeah.
bringing people from outside,
Yeah.
right? So, those people who are there, and right now, the way the services are going, you've got to understand that there is a rationale behind it because
Mm,
you don't have people. So now to say we are going to close the care worker category for overseas applicants is absolutely ridiculous.
mm, mm.
Need those people. Over a hundred
Yeah.
thousand vacancies right now exist.
It's-
Who's supposed to be
Exactly.
filling them up? And the government says, oh, the employers now have a responsibility of training these people.
Yeah.
Why the hell would an employer who's doing everything for a business, running a business,
Mm,
would want
mm,
to get involved in all of this?
mm,
Oh
mm,
yes, you say, oh, because this is the way forward, and we should do this and we should do that. Ideas and practicalities are two very different things, and that is how
right.
they need to be looked at. So, what is happening with this Farage brigade right now? That I would say
Mm,
there is such a fear in the government that they
mm,
are going to come in and take over everything, and Labour will be completely lost. Conservatives are completely gone anyway. So,
mm,
what
mm.
seems like is going to happen is that the Farage brigade is going to come in. All the people who are around who listen to the Farage brigade are going to simply say, oh, yeah, everything he says is right. So
Mm,
Farage
mm.
says all these boats are coming in and all these immigrants are coming in and they are being put in five-star hotels and so many millions are going there. Well, why are you putting them in hotels? If you
Mm,
have accommodation available elsewhere, you can put them there. Or you can put them in detention centers if you want to.
mm,
Take them straight
mm.
over there. If you don't have enough, then again, strengthen your borders. They
Yeah.
keep talking about, oh, there are legal ways of coming in, legal way. Look at what they're doing to legal ways of coming in. If you
Exactly.
remember, Suella Braverman was asked this question when she was Secretary of State, and she
Mm,
had absolutely no idea. She was put on the
mm,
spot and she was squirming left, right, and center all over the place, had no
mm,
idea what to say. Because when you put the question, there are safe and legal ways of coming to the UK. What?
mm,
A refugee who is at fear of his life, what is he going to be doing? Is he going to be looking at his bank statements, how they're being maintained, and then make an application to the Home Office or to their British High Commission in their area, for example, in Afghanistan, where they are
mm.
being bombed all over the place? Is he going to have the bank statements and the
Nope.
documents to prove that he's a genuine visitor who's going to go to the UK and come back in 3 weeks?
Mm,
Ridiculous. So they make things so stupid that they
Yeah.
cannot maintain them, and then they blame it all on the immigrants. So
Hmm.
back to the question. Your question was, why has this white paper being issued right now? Because there's fear in the government that the Farage brigade is going to come in and steamroll everybody. So instead of them making promises, let us as a labor government right now make those promises, make those changes, bring about those changes so that people are with us. That is again a ridiculously stupid thing to do. People are not going to be with you just because you cut immigration. Justify
Yes.
immigration. Look around you. Look at the television. If you're watching last night, I never sit down and watch any television. But last night, my wife was flipping around the channels, and this Britain's Got Talent came up. And every
Hmm.
advert that was coming in, I was just sitting there because I've got those thoughts always in my head.
Hmm.
The advert that was sitting in, that was being shown, there was a multicultural line throughout everything.
Yes.
Watch a McDonald's ad. There will be an Oriental person. There will be a black person. There will be an
Correct.
Indian person. There will be a Sardar with a turban. There will be
Hmm.
a Muslim being shown somewhere. Why is that? Because this is what the community is now. It is a multicultural society.
Hmm.
In the
Yeah.
70s, in the 60s and the 70s, after the World War, after everything had been bombed to smithereens and people needed to build this country, they brought in the immigrants, they brought in the
Correct.
Africans, they brought in the Indians, they brought in the Pakistanis to work in factories, to work as builders, to rebuild the country. And
Hmm.
then now those people whose second, third, fourth generations are here, they are being told, go back to your country. A
Hmm.
16-year-old boy whose great grandfather migrated from somewhere or his grandfather migrated from somewhere, how can you tell him you don't belong to this country? He was born
Exactly.
here, he was raised here, that's all he knows.
Yeah.
But this is unfortunately the kind of world we're living in right now, where all
That's
of
true.
this blind hatred is taking over everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
On a closing remark, what you would say to people who are already panicked or stuck in the uncertainty?
I would just say educate yourself. Okay.
Yes.
Don't listen to everybody. Don't listen to every Tom, Dick, or Harry. I know social media is very strong right now, but social media also has a lot of lies being told.
Hmm.
Constantly, I see I'm being sent videos by people. Is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And a lot of it is not true. So social media has no accountability. So people
Yes.
can come and say whatever they want, and nobody holds them accountable.
Hmm.
So please educate yourself before you start panicking. Understand what the rules are. Speak to professionals who are actual professionals who know what they're talking about and who give you the right advice. So
Hmm.
the biggest problem people have right now is misinformation. So they hear things. My uncle's, auntie's, barber's son told me something, and there we go.
Yeah.
That's not the source of information. Then the
Hmm.
other thing people also do, which is something very dangerous, they say, we don't have any trust in anybody. I'm just going to do applications myself. So when they start doing things themselves and they start
Hmm.
feeding themselves, instead of actually finding out what the law is from the source of the law, they go to social media, find out things from there, and then they start doing things, which leads to a lot of problems as well. So my
Correct.
best advice would be educate yourself, understand what you're doing before you're doing, get the right legal advice, understand where you need to go, prepare the right
Hmm.
documentation, prepare according to the proper rules, and then do whatever you need to do.
Thank you. That's in terms of my question, I am done. Thank you
Excellent.
so much for your time.
Not a problem at all.
And I
Thank you
really
very much for
enjoyed.
contacting me. And I'm glad that I've been able to exercise my lungs first thing in the morning. So now the rest of the day is also more exercising the lungs, talking to people.